What I'm about to tell you could change how you react to the next strange symptom you feel in your face, your arm, your vision, or your speech. And if you have ever had a moment where your body suddenly felt wrong, then seemed normal again, this message may be far more important than you realize. Because sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the brain sends out a warning before a major stroke arrives. Not a dramatic collapse. Not a scene from television. Sometimes it's just 30 seconds of slurred words. A crooked smile. A hand that won't grip. A wave of dizziness that disappears before your coffee gets cold. And that is exactly why so many people miss it. As a doctor, I need to say this plainly. A stroke can steal speech, movement, memory, independence, and time in a matter of minutes. And the most dangerous warning is often the one people talk themselves out of. Before we begin, please subscribe to this channel for life-saving health guidance that helps you protect yourself and family daily. Now here is the truth most people never hear clearly enough. Not every stroke gives you a warning the day before. Some strike without any preview at all. But when a warning does show up, it often looks small, temporary, and easy to dismiss. That is what makes it so dangerous. The symptom fades and the person relaxes when that should be the moment they move fastest. Picture a 72-year-old woman sitting at her kitchen table early in the morning. She reaches for her mug, and suddenly the fingers in her right hand feel thick and clumsy, almost like they belong to someone else. She tries to say something to her husband, but the words come out blurred for 10 seconds. Then it passes. Completely. She laughs nervously, says maybe she slept funny, maybe her blood sugar dipped, maybe she stood up too fast. By lunchtime, she feels normal. By the next morning, she's in an ambulance with a full stroke that has taken away movement on one side of her body. That story is painful because it happens in real life over and over again, and the first event is often the chance to prevent the second one. What happened in that first moment may have been a transient ischemic attack, or TIA, often called a mini-stroke. I want you to hear this carefully because the name mini-stroke has fooled people for years. There is nothing minor about it. A TIA is not harmless just because it is brief. It can be your brain's emergency flare. Blood flow gets interrupted for a short time, symptoms appear suddenly, and then they may disappear within minutes or an hour. That disappearing act tricks people into believing the danger has passed. But in some cases, the brief warning comes hours before the major stroke, or the same day, or the next day. So let's go through the warning signs you must not ignore. Warning sign number 11 is sudden numbness or weakness on one side of the body. And this is the one many people misread as fatigue, a pinched nerve, arthritis, or just getting older. If your face, arm, hand, or leg suddenly feels weak, heavy, numb, or disconnected, especially on only one side, do not minimize that. Stroke symptoms do not need to be dramatic to be real. Sometimes it's just a fork slipping from the hand. Sometimes it's a foot dragging for a few steps. Sometimes it's the strange feeling that one side of your mouth is not moving the way it should. The reason this matters so much is simple. Stroke often affects one side because one part of the brain is losing blood flow while the other still functions. And the frightening part is how fast people explain this away. A senior says, maybe I sat too long. Maybe my shoulder has been acting up. Maybe I overdid it in the garden. But ordinary muscle strain usually does not arrive out of nowhere in the exact second that your speech or balance also shifts. That suddenness matters. Stroke symptoms tend to begin abruptly. One moment you are fine. The next moment something is wrong. If weakness or numbness appears out of the blue, even if it lasts only a minute, treat that as a medical emergency. The brain is not vague when blood flow is interrupted. The body is sending a signal. Your job is not to debate with it. Your job is to react. Warning sign number 10 is a face that suddenly changes shape. And I don't just mean a dramatic droop that anyone across the room could spot. Sometimes it is far more subtle. The smile looks uneven in the mirror. One eyelid seems lower. The mouth feels strange while brushing your teeth. A sip of water leaks from one corner of the lips. You try to grin, and one side seems delayed, almost like the signal arrived late. People often think, I'm just tired. My face feels funny. It'll pass. But the face is one of the fastest places the brain reveals trouble. If one side of the face stops obeying normally, even briefly, that is not something to watch overnight. What makes facial change especially dangerous is that people often wait for pain, and stroke usually does not announce itself with pain in the face. It announces itself with loss of control. That difference matters. If the face is drooping, numb, oddly heavy, or visibly uneven, pair that symptom with the question every family should know to ask. Can the person smile normally? If the answer is no, or even not quite, that is enough to take action. You do not need all the signs at once. One strong sign is enough. Stroke does not wait until the symptom list is complete. And neither should you. Warning sign number 9 is sudden speech trouble. And this one terrifies me because people often hear it, notice it, and still brush it aside if it improves quickly. Maybe the words come out slurred like you have dental numbness. Maybe the sentence sounds scrambled. Maybe you know exactly what you want to say, but your tongue does not cooperate. Or maybe you speak clearly in your own head, yet the person in front of you gives you that look that says, "What did you just say?" That moment matters. A brief speech disturbance can be one of the clearest warnings of a TIA or stroke. It is not normal for language to vanish and return as if someone flicked a switch. Imagine a man answering the phone and suddenly sounding drunk even though he has not touched alcohol. His daughter asks if he is okay. He says yes, but the words are mushy. 30 seconds later, he sounds normal again. They both laugh it off. By evening, he is confused and weak. That is how fast this can move. The reason speech symptoms are so critical is that they often mean the brain's language centers or nearby pathways are under stress. If speech becomes slurred, garbled, delayed, or strangely difficult, do not wait to see whether the next sentence sounds better. The problem is not the sentence. The problem is the blood supply to the brain. Warning sign number 8 is sudden confusion or trouble, understanding what other people are saying. And this one is often missed because families assume the person is distracted, overtired, emotional, or simply not paying attention. But confusion from a possible stroke can show up in a very specific way. The person hears you, yet your words seem not to land. They stare at you. They answer the wrong question. They cannot follow a simple instruction they normally handle with ease. Or they try to respond, and the response makes no sense for the moment. In older adults, this can be dangerously misread as forgetfulness. But memory decline is not the same as sudden confusion arriving out of nowhere. That word sudden is everything here. A person who was fine at breakfast and then, 15 minutes later, seems mentally lost is not having a normal aging moment. They may be having a brain emergency. One of the cruelest things about stroke is that the victim may not fully recognize how impaired they are. So the burden falls on the people around them to notice the change and move. If you ask a loved one a simple question and they suddenly cannot process it, cannot understand it, or cannot respond appropriately, do not sit them down for a nap. Do not ask them to see whether they feel better in an hour. That hour may be the very thing they cannot afford. Warning sign number 7 is sudden vision change, and this symptom fools people constantly because vision problems seem like something that belongs to the eyes, not the brain. But your brain is deeply involved in vision. A stroke warning may look like dimming in one eye, blurring in both, double vision, a gray curtain, missing half of what you are looking at, or a sudden sense that reading has become impossible. Some people describe it as if a shade dropped over one side. Others say, I could see, but not normally. The problem is that because there may be no pain, people tell themselves it's dry eyes, fatigue, low light, or a migraine starting. And yet a sudden change in vision is one of the classic stroke warnings that people regret ignoring. A woman once tells herself she simply needs new glasses because the television suddenly looks strange on one side. A man blinks several times, thinking the double vision will settle. It does settle, and that reassures him. But temporary vision symptoms can still signal a TIA. If your sight changes suddenly and you cannot explain it immediately, treat that as urgent. Especially if it appears together with dizziness, weakness, facial change, or odd speech, the picture becomes even more concerning. Eyes do not work in isolation. When the brain's blood flow is threatened, vision is often one of the first systems to complain. Warning sign number 6 is sudden dizziness, loss of balance, or a sense that the floor has shifted beneath you. Now, I know dizziness is common, especially in older adults. People blame the inner ear, blood pressure, dehydration, skipped meals, standing up too quickly, almost anything. And yes, sometimes dizziness is harmless. But stroke-related dizziness has a different danger because it arrives suddenly, may be intense, and can come with trouble walking, loss of coordination, or a feeling that your body no longer knows where it is in space. The person may veer to one side. They may grab the wall. They may feel the room spin, not gradually, but all at once. This is where many people lose precious time. They sit down, sip water, wait, and hope it will pass. If it does pass, they feel relieved, when really they should feel alarmed. Sudden balance loss can be a warning sign, especially when combined with vision change, nausea, weakness, facial droop, or speech trouble. Think about how stroke in certain parts of the brain can affect coordination and balance before it affects obvious strength. That means not every stroke warning looks like a drooping face first. Sometimes it looks like a person who suddenly cannot walk straight across their own hallway. That is not a small symptom. That is a brain symptom. Warning sign number 5 is a sudden arm or leg that feels unusually heavy, awkward, or clumsy, even if it is not completely weak. And this is more subtle than paralysis, which is why it gets missed. Maybe you can still move the arm, but it feels detached, slow, or unreliable. Maybe you try to button a shirt, write a note, or hold a spoon, and the coordination simply is not there. Maybe a knee buckles once for no clear reason. Seniors often dismiss this because they know their bodies ache and stiffen. But stroke warnings do not need to knock you down to be real. Sometimes they first whisper through clumsiness. The key question is this: did this difficulty arrive suddenly? If the answer is yes, that changes everything. Arthritis tends to build and flare. Nerve pain tends to have a pattern. Ordinary fatigue tends to feel general. But stroke-related clumsiness often appears like a switch being flipped. A hand that handled a coffee cup normally 5 minutes ago now cannot quite trust itself. A leg that carried you through the kitchen now seems uncertain on the next step. And when people say, "it was only for a moment," that does not make it safer. That may actually make it more suspicious for a TIA, because temporary brain symptoms are exactly the ones people ignore until the permanent event follows. Warning sign number 4 is a sudden, severe headache unlike your usual headaches. And this one deserves special attention because some people hear stroke and think only of weakness or speech. But a stroke, especially a bleeding type, can announce itself with a brutal headache that feels explosive, unfamiliar, or frighteningly intense. It may come with vomiting, dizziness, confusion, or altered awareness. The mistake people make is comparing it to their past headaches and deciding to tough it out. If a person says, "this headache hit me out of nowhere and feels wrong," take that seriously. The worst headache of your life is not a symptom to watch from the couch. Now I need to be careful here, because not every strong headache is a stroke, and not every stroke causes headache. But if the pain is sudden, severe, and paired with neurologic symptoms, you do not try to sort that out at home. You do not look for online reassurance. You do not decide it can wait until tomorrow morning. Stroke care is built around time because treatments are time-sensitive. The brain cannot afford a long family debate in the living room. If a headache arrives like a bolt and something about it feels profoundly different, especially with speech trouble, weakness, imbalance, or vision change, assume emergency first and ask questions later. Warning sign number 3 is one that families often dislike hearing because it sounds less neat, less obvious, and less easy to turn into a checklist. I'm talking about sudden, unexplained fatigue, nausea, brain fog, or general weakness that comes on fast and feels deeply wrong. This is especially important in women, who may sometimes have subtler or vaguer symptoms alongside the classic ones. A woman may say, I feel strange. I'm exhausted all of a sudden. I can't think straight. I'm nauseated. I just don't feel right. And because those symptoms are less dramatic than facial droop, everyone around her may minimize them. That can be a devastating mistake. What matters is not that the symptom is vague. What matters is that it is sudden and unusual for that person. If someone who was functioning normally is abruptly overwhelmed by confusion, unexplained malaise, or a strange wave of weakness they cannot account for, pay attention. Especially if it comes with any other warning sign, the picture becomes more urgent. Older women in particular are sometimes told they are stressed, anxious, dehydrated, or overworked when the brain is actually signaling distress. I would rather you react to a false alarm than talk yourself out of the real thing. A brief delay can cost function that no one gets back. Imagine a 69-year-old grandmother preparing dinner. She suddenly feels washed out, nauseated, and mentally cloudy. As she tells herself she must be coming down with something. Then she notices she is bumping into the counter with one shoulder. Her daughter says maybe she needs to sit down. They both mean well, but they are already stepping into danger. Not every warning looks textbook at first. Sometimes the first clue is the feeling that something in the body has gone off script. And when that feeling is sudden, neurologic, and hard to explain, you respect it. You do not demand perfection from the symptom before you respond. Stroke does not owe you a dramatic performance before you take it seriously. Warning sign number 2 is when these strange symptoms come in brief waves over the course of a day. And this may be one of the most misleading patterns of all. A person has 10 minutes of slurred speech in the morning, seems fine again. Then later in the afternoon loses balance for 2 minutes, then after dinner, the hand feels weak. Because the signs come and go, the family assumes they cannot be serious. They think a real emergency would be constant. But intermittent symptoms can be exactly what makes a TIA so dangerous. The body seems to recover, so everyone relaxes. Meanwhile, the underlying threat may still be there, building towards something worse. This pattern becomes even more treacherous when symptoms happen during sleep or are first noticed on waking. A person gets up in the morning and says they slept oddly because one arm feels off, their speech sounds thick, or their balance is strange for a few minutes. Then it improves. They move on with the day. That is not a safe outcome. That is a warning you may have nearly slept through. Some strokes and stroke warnings are discovered in those early morning hours, and people lose time because they assume morning grogginess explains everything. If you wake up with sudden neurologic changes, even if they fade as you fully awaken, do not dismiss that as a bad night's sleep. And now we come to warning sign number 1, the most ignored, the most betrayed, and in many ways the most dangerous sign on this entire list. The symptom disappears. That's it. It goes away. The smile straightens. The words come back. The hand works again. The dizziness lifts. Vision clears. And because the body seems normal again, the person decides the crisis is over. But the vanishing symptom is not proof that nothing happened. In many cases, it is the very reason you must move immediately. People feel grateful when the warning fades, and that emotional relief becomes the trap. They celebrate the return to normal instead of recognizing it as their last window to prevent disaster. I cannot tell you how many people would have made a different decision if they understood this one truth. You do not need symptoms to still be happening for a stroke emergency to be real. If the brain lost blood flow briefly, even for minutes, that episode can be a warning of a major stroke ahead. And at home, in the moment, there is no reliable way for you to know whether you are seeing a TIA or the beginning of a larger stroke. That is why emergency systems treat both with urgency. If symptoms vanish before the ambulance arrives, you do not cancel. You do not say never mind. You keep going. The disappearing symptom is not your permission to stay home. It is your order to get checked. So what do you do if you or someone you love has one of these symptoms? First, stop everything and look at the clock. Time matters because stroke treatment depends heavily on when symptoms started or when the person was last known well. Second, call emergency services immediately. Do not drive yourself and do not let a family member play ambulance. Paramedics can begin assessment while moving, and hospitals prepare differently when stroke is suspected. Third, note what symptom happened and whether it resolved. That information is valuable. Fourth, keep the person safe and seated if balance is off, but do not let calmness fool you. A quiet room does not make this less urgent. Just as important are the things you should not do. Do not wait to see whether it happens again. Do not send the person to bed to rest it off. Do not schedule a routine appointment for next week. Do not have them drive to urgent care because they say they feel better now. And do not start guessing which home remedy or extra medication might fix it. Stroke is not the moment for self-experimenting. The wrong delay or the wrong assumption or the wrong pill at the wrong time can make things worse. The safest move is fast medical evaluation because the brain cannot explain itself clearly while it is under attack. This urgency exists for a reason. Brain cells begin to suffer within minutes when blood flow is interrupted, and some treatments work only in specific time windows. The sooner a stroke is recognized, the greater the chance of protecting brain tissue, reducing disability, and sometimes dramatically improving recovery. That is why every minute has weight. A person who gets help quickly may keep abilities that someone else loses forever, simply because they hesitated. The family often thinks we didn't want to overreact. But overreacting to a false alarm is far safer than underreacting to a real stroke warning. When the brain sends a sudden signal, speed is not panic. Speed is protection. Now let me tell you who needs to hear this message most urgently, because many people assume stroke is something that happens to someone else. If you are older, if you have high blood pressure, diabetes, atrial fibrillation, high cholesterol, if you smoke, if you have already had a TIA, or if stroke runs in your family, your margin for hesitation is smaller. But even that list is not a shield for everyone else. Stroke can happen in people who did not expect it. That is why symptom awareness matters more than false reassurance. Risk factors raise the danger, but symptoms are what demand action in the moment. Seniors especially need to be careful with one habit, explaining everything away as age. I say this with deep respect, because older adults are often incredibly tough. They push through discomfort. They do not want to bother their children. They do not want to seem dramatic. They do not want to call emergency services unless they are absolutely certain. But stroke feeds on that hesitation. If your face changes suddenly, if your speech slips, if one side weakens, if your balance breaks, if your vision turns strange, you are not being dramatic by seeking help. You are being smart. Independence is protected by fast action, not by stoicism in the middle of a neurologic emergency. I want to give you a mental picture you can carry after this video ends. Think BEFAST, but feel it, don't just memorize it. Balance suddenly gone. Eyes suddenly strange. Face suddenly uneven. Arms suddenly weak. Speech suddenly off. Time to call. That little framework works because stroke symptoms are sudden and they are functional. Something you could do a minute ago, you suddenly cannot do normally now. That is the pattern. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember that sudden loss of normal function in the face, arm, speech, vision, or balance is never something to casually monitor at home. Now picture two different endings to the same day. In the first, a man notices his words slur for 40 seconds during breakfast. His wife says it was odd, but he looks fine now. They decide to watch him. At midnight, he cannot move his left side. In the second ending, that same breakfast moment leads to an emergency call, rapid evaluation, and treatment aimed at preventing the larger stroke from arriving. Same symptom, same morning, different decision, different future. That is why I am so passionate about this subject. The warning when it appears is not merely information. It is opportunity. A narrow, precious, easily wasted opportunity. And I need to add one more truth, because it may save someone listening right now. If your loved one argues with you, minimizes the symptom, or says they are embarrassed to call, you may have to make the hard decision for them. Stroke can affect judgment. People often do not see their own danger clearly in the moment. If you witness facial droop, speech change, confusion, one-sided weakness, sudden vision loss, or abrupt balance trouble, you do not need their permission to recognize an emergency. Love sometimes sounds like insistence. Love sometimes sounds like, no, we are not waiting, we are calling now. So here is the message I want burned into your mind. A stroke one day later may be preceded by a warning one day earlier, but that warning usually does not look like a movie scene. It looks like a moment, a brief glitch, a weird minute. A crooked smile that fixes itself, a sentence that comes out wrong, a leg that buckles once, a flash of dizziness that vanishes. And because the sign is temporary, people tell themselves the danger was temporary too. That is the lie. The disappearing symptom is not the all clear. It may be the final alert before permanent damage arrives. If this video reaches you before that moment ever comes, then good. File it away. Share it with your spouse, your parents, your adult children, your neighbors, anyone who might someday see one of these signs and hesitate. Because hesitation is where stroke steals its advantage. But if this video reaches you after something like this has already happened to you, do not sit with that information quietly. Tell your doctor. Tell your family. And if it happens again, act immediately. Embarrassment can pass. A false alarm can pass. Lost brain function may not. Take sudden symptoms seriously. Take brief symptoms seriously. Take vanishing symptoms seriously. That is the whole message. Because when it comes to stroke, the body may whisper before it screams. And the people who survive best, the people who keep more of their speech, movement, memory, and independence, are often the ones who respected the whisper. If you learned something important today, stay with this channel, share this video with someone you love, and keep this message close. The next strange symptom you notice may not be random. It may be time critical. And the decision you make in those first minutes could change everything.